And that's how we ended the biggest wrestling show of all time, JP.
Yeah.
I mean, what
Two
do we
best
make of it
friends.
overall? We did
Happy?
a lot of talk going in.
Yeah.
We hated the build. We hated the selection of what they were building, specifically the multi-bands. We didn't think they did a great job of giving everything stakes. But as we always said, the lead up, were we going to have a good time in the night? We were. Did we feel like we were part of something? We did. Even more so than even I kind of predicted. Like, it was special being there. Like, special being there amongst that many people. Special the idea that AEW could even do this, not be WWE and draw 80 to 90,000 people to a stadium. That there's that many AEW fans in this country in general kind of makes my head spin, you know what I mean? Obviously, there has to be more based on the ITV numbers, but like just to see it in real life was kind of a pinch me moment. And I got to be there for a live stadium show, and I've been to a WrestleMania, but it was before they were doing stadiums, and I might never get to a stadium WrestleMania. I did, for all the criticism we give the build, that I think you said it, Matthew, does stand to this day. What they did give us, what they did deliver, was a big stadium show that felt every bit of that, was produced very well. And shock of shocks, as we always talk about when we're critical about AEW, JP, the best wrestlers in the world went out there and for the most part had very good matches. Maybe there wasn't a standout 5-star match there for my tastes, but there was lots of very good stuff up and down the card, and everyone delivered.
I think they did, and I think they were inspired to deliver by the crowd. I think it's that virtuous circle effect.
It was a good show, made a great show, I think.
Yeah, it was. And I would go with it. And I think you can detach the quality of the show and the wrestling for it. And obviously they made the announcement afterwards. They're coming back on Sunday, August 25th, 2024. The big thing I'd say is if they want to do these numbers again, you can't be fucking winging it 2 weeks in advance. You cannot. Because there's a lot of people who have made, because this is the first time, it's special.
Yeah.
It's less special second time around. So you're going to have actual stuff there for you to build for. And let's face it, none of us have a clue what AEW is even going to look like in a year's time, because there's so many moving pieces and there's so much drama backstage that it's hard to tell what position they're going to be in as a company. But the one thing they can't do is you can't take this goodwill for granted. And I think that's what I hope is the thing that kind of came through, is there are a lot of fans, and you mentioned the UK, really Europe as well, because there are a lot of people from in and around continental Europe, Australia, even a few lads from the US, or RJ City speak to some people in the pre-show from Phoenix, for God's sakes. But they can't get away with it. The stuff they did well in terms of the spectacle, in terms of making it feel like a big proper event on that WWE level without it looking exactly like WWE. They did that very, very well. But again, they've got to have a plan in place for this. And I'm sure most of the wrestlers who say weren't on the card, now Sami Guevara saying, I want to be on this card next year, all of them should be busting a gut to be on there and to have almost forced the hand of Tony Khan saying, actually, we need, if we could deliver something properly spectacular and make sure it's seen by the most amount of people possible, not just Fight TV. Make sure it's seen on ITV for get those kind of things.
It's going to be replayed, isn't it, on Thursday? This now, I think we found that out in the but not live. Obviously, that's the difference, isn't it? It is going to be on ITV, but yeah, I don't know.
BT Sports or TNT Sports at that time, possibly. Even.
Could be. The world could be completely different in here, couldn't it? As you say. I mean, like I said, I had one of the best weekends of my life because of this show. Absolutely the case, from our live show to Red Rubber Chest we're going to talk about in a minute, to all of the other stuff, all existed because this show existed. I think even the wrestlers backstage would probably tell you there's definitely some grumbling to be had about the way the card came together and some of the decisions that were made or not made that you could absolutely rectify next time. I think play devil's advocate, they delivered on the night. I think a good number of people there, myself included, when they announced that date, were like, maybe I'll have a little look on booking.com and see what the hotels are saying, this time next year. I love the fact that they want to make that a tradition. I think that's, we shouldn't take that for granted. As a British audience, we're going to have our own big AEW show once a year now. That is actually going to be a thing. It isn't going to be a case of, like with WWE, you're probably only going to get to a WrestleMania. if you go, to America and you make that trip, we are nailed on now to get this every year. Now, can they treat it like a WrestleMania? Can subsequent ones feel like a WrestleMania, like this one did through being the virtue of the first? That is a question. I think regardless of anything, there'll be diminishing returns. I think I would guess, and I do take this with it, but just also I would guess we're talking less. We're probably talking 60 to 70,000 instead of 80 plus. Or then again, when they announced this, I was the low man going, I don't know if they'll be able to fill it to 80, 90,000, to a extreme degree. I didn't think that was going to happen. And it did. So I wouldn't doubt them either. I mean, what's your read on it, Matt? Like, you, as a non-AEW fan, spend £200 on your ticket. Would you come again? Would you come every year? If they were doing this once a year, like WWE have never done this. WWE might come back. WWE probably will, more likely than not, come back now that AEW are clearly, as Tony Khan said in the presser, trying to become the UK's number one company. In Tony Khan's words, they are the UK's number one company. That, yeah. Hard to argue when they drew this many people. WWE are going to have an answer to that, but yeah, does it draw somebody like you? The idea of coming back and doing it all over again next year.
Yeah, but that's like someone said there in the chat, Ewan, is it? Like, it's like our version of Mania weekend. So obviously, if all you guys and like Gareth and Gary and Crewy are going, I'm no pun intended, I'm all in for it. You know what I mean? I'm up for it.
It's WrestleMania weekend. We have our own
version. That's what it is. That's what it is. So that's why I'd obviously go. And I agree what JP said. They'd have to announce a big main event weeks out, JP, and get a proper build next time, of course. But like you just said again, they nailed the scope. Everyone come across like a star. I think most of like 90% of the roster come across like a gigantic star because of this. And yeah, I'd be all up for it. Definitely, Benno. Definitely.
It's also going to be much bigger in scope because this time next year they'll be running Dynamite and Collision and Rampage beforehand and Ring of Honor. I think we'll have a very different look to the weekend. I think we'll have like a whole series of shows.
Do the tapings the week before in arenas and stuff.
I think they might be here for even a couple of weeks beforehand. And there's a danger in that of kind of overexposing it because they hadn't done any TV beforehand. This was the first time you got to see AEW in the UK. You had to be at Wembley in order to do it. It's whether or not do they learn the proper lessons from this. And the problem with AEW is, and as we've spoken about quite a few times, is they don't often learn these lessons. And there's things where they rely on good wrestlers doing great wrestling in order to bail them out of it. And I think if they want to grow and they want to be a substantial presence in the UK and kind of enter into the popular kind of lexicon of British wrestling fans, so they speak about two companies and not just WWE, and there's other indie stuff on the side, they're going to have to actually have their ducks in a row with it, which again, they're an impossible company to predict because there's so much going on there behind the scenes that it needs a level of organization next time round. And they've had the goodwill this time round and they've generally delivered, I think, on a fun experience. But next time round, people might just be thinking, do you know what? I might just go on holiday.
Yeah, that's a good point. Bank holiday weekend as well every year, and it's going to be
tough sell. It's a lot of money.
It is.
I think if you're going to play devil's advocate, though, like as much as we were critical, if I titled this YouTube video "Were We Right" or "Were We Wrong," I'm going to say no. Well, we were. I think we were right in every bit of criticism of the build, and anyone who saw, where Omega and Moxley and that were on the card, I think would. You're just being stubborn if you don't agree. Maybe people think we're stubborn, but like I say, we always went in saying we knew they were going to deliver as far as in ring, and we knew it was going to be a spectacle because unlike a lot of the people commenting on this, we knew what Wembley was, and we knew what it meant to people, and we knew what it was going to look like when it happened. And they delivered on all those things. But you could play devil's advocate and say, as Will says here in the chat, as much as we think they dogged the bill to this one. The positive of that is, well, next time, you could save up Ospreay Omega. You could save it for then. You could, have your big, whether it's that or something else, your big Omega singles match. You could have your big Moxley singles match. You could have Danielson there. You could have Jamie Hayter there. You could have Hangman Page in a more prominent position. Like, you could get your ducks in a row and deliver now that they've come in and this show was going to be this show, regardless of anything. I doubt it was the logic, but you could make that work for you, couldn't it? This show was always going to, it drew this number without the card being announced. You can't really credit Cole and MJF or whoever will get credit in future for it. AEW drew this crowd. 70,000 of the 80,000 tickets were already sold before we bloody knew any matches. We knew it was going to be a great atmosphere. We knew it was going to be a great night and a great monumental weekend. Those things were a given. You could make the pessimistic argument that, well, yeah, there you go. That was going to happen regardless. So now that they didn't put much effort in, they could put the effort in next time, and they could still do comparable numbers. Like, it would be a disaster to do 60,000, to do 70,000. It wouldn't be a disaster if they don't break the record. There's an argument to be made there, JP.
That's got to be the aim, though, hasn't it? Sorry to butt in there. That's got to be the aim, JP, to match it at least, you know.
I think the other story that's really interesting is the way they're kind of almost block booking Wembley and like kind of taking that away from WWE, which will rankle them because there is no other stadiums.
Yeah,
like
we were talking about that
in the UK. They can't. There isn't. I mean, Jesus Christ, how many other stadiums are bigger than that in Europe for football? Like,
there's nowhere bigger.
Bernabeu.
Yeah,
mate, I have a policy. I don't give that club any money. If they're running Tottenham, I ain't going. That club doesn't get a penny of my money, and it will be that way until I die.
Fair play.
Oh, well, unfortunately for the wrestlers, they did end up getting stuck in the country as well, didn't they? That was the other side note of this funny weekend. They got home yet? Hopefully, they'll be dreading next year if it goes in it like this. A lot of the Irish, unfortunately, got stuck as well, didn't they? At Heathrow and at other airports with everything getting grounded the day after. I think everyone's either on their way home now or at least at home. So let's hope that doesn't happen if it happens